Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, Fantasy Champs?
What's up?
My name's Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always. I feel like the music, when it makes that drop and then cuts off and then comes back, I feel like that was louder than usual.
It might be.
Not
Maybe
sure
your headphones are just at max volume.
Probably. 100%. Welcome on into the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. We got some good stuff to get to you today. We are just, I think, what is this, around 1 week away from the NFL draft. So we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out where some of these rookies are gonna land, which is exciting.
Side note: the reason your headphones were all the way is because you had Celtics highlights playing.
Oh,
that's
exactly.
Of Tatum's game-winning shot. But anyway, it's going to be really interesting. I think post-draft, because it changes some things. But pre-draft is still very interesting as well because it's kind of what we think minus the draft capital and landing spot.
It'll be interesting to like Rick said, to see where those guys land too, because
could change things.
It definitely could change things, and it always does. I remember a couple years ago, I think, when N'Keal Harry got drafted, who else came out of that draft? Because Metcalf, AJ Brown, some of those other guys,
Plywood Brown.
And there were some players that were even being ranked higher at the wide receiver position for people in the fantasy community. And then N'Keal Harry got drafted by New England, and that
he's a 101
in and of itself pushed him up to the 101, and he was already kind of there for the most part. But so it could be a good thing or it could be a very bad thing, and we'll try to analyze that a little bit.
So glad.
Funny thing is I think me and Rick prior to that draft were both like, why is everyone so high on N'Keal Harry?
Yeah, and we were Pats fans.
And I'm like the expectations are through the roof for this guy. And I'm like, if you guys have never watched the Patriots before, that is not the type of receiver that they use that regularly. So anyway, today we're going to bring you a rookie mock draft 2.0. This time it's not superflex. We'll probably do one more next week in honor of the NFL draft coming to town. And then we'll probably bring maybe some more draft content, and then draft analysis post-game. Not post-game, that's not the right way of saying that. Post-draft analysis the following week. So it should be interesting. But today we're going to do a rookie mock draft. Before we do, check our website at thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcast platforms, please leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Click the bell for notifications, like, and comment down below any questions you have, or if you want to rate our mock draft.
Yeah, and say how awesome it was.
Say how wonderful we are.
And how we're so good at picking all the right plays.
We won't flip you off like Kyrie if you send us some hate mail.
Maybe.
Honestly, I see people's hate comments and I laugh at them. I think it's kind of funny. I'm like, wow, people actually took the time out of their day to hate on me because of a fantasy football opinion. That already makes me feel better about the situation that I'm in. What were you saying?
I said just because you said that now, we're going to get at least one hate comment.
At least one. But anyway, so today the mock draft that we are going to do is a 12 team. So by the time you hit 4, 9, 10, 11, or 12, ain't nobody going to be left. It's going to be this is already kind of a not great draft class in terms of fantasy. And this is single quarterback. So this kind of eliminates at least a couple players. So it pushes everything back, and it's a 12 team. So by the time we get to the third and fourth round, it is going to be an absolute just crap fest. I know. So this is a 12 team. We're going off PPR, non-superflex, as Rick said. And Rick is going with the 101. I'm going with the 1-9. So we're taking two different approaches. I'm going for more of a contention, how you deal with the draft if you're, a contender in your league, in your dynasty leagues, and Rick's rebuilding over here. Rick tanked.
I did. I
tanked for this draft. So we'll try to give you the best advice on what to do here with a 12-team league. Like Rick says, so it's not an easy thing to do. These 12-team leagues.
It's not, especially single quarterback. It would be a little better super flex, but with single quarterback, it's hard. So we're in for one.
Yeah. So, and Rick took the first one, so he's got the easiest group.
Yes.
He doesn't have to deal with the last 6 picks. Waiting for that run of tight ends to go on this, go on late in the draft. That'll be fun. But anyway, you ready to get this kicked off, Ricardo?
I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
All right. Sleeper says they want to start the draft, and I shall start. So Rick is on the board.
Yeah. So I typically am especially in a rebuild, I think you want to get receivers. Those guys are the longevity type players.
Never listen to your own advice.
I don't. Yeah, no. I think I'm going to go Breece Hall here, and no, I have reasons for this. So
okay, all right.
It's like 2 years ago. Jonathan Taylor. A lot of people, and I'm not going to compare Breece Hall to Jonathan Taylor, but some people would pass on him. He went to the 1-3 in a league we did together.
Yeah.
But pre-draft, he was a lot of people's 101 or at least 102, top non-quarterback.
Yeah.
And people passed on him because there was just kind of like, oh, I don't know about the landing spot, and he's a running back. I know someone took a receiver ahead of him in one of our leagues, so I'm not going to make that same mistake, and I'm not going to tell you he's Jonathan Taylor, but maybe similar to a guy like Najee Harris last year. And if Jamar Chase wasn't in that draft, and maybe Kyle Pitts, Najee Harris would be the 101 in non-superflex rookie drafts. And even then, even with Kyle Pitts, I think you could probably still make an argument for Najee Harris 101.
Yeah.
And I don't see a Jamar Chase in this draft as much as I like the receiving depth and a lot of the receivers in this draft. There's no Jamar Chase. So I'm going to take Breece Hall here. I think he's we got the sound effects on, or at least I do. I think he's your best bet for being that kind of cornerstone running back for at least the next 5 to 6 years.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take a counter approach to Rick, and of course he prefaced it by saying, typically in a rebuild you want to take wide receivers first and then draft a running back. So there's that. He literally did that in a league that we were rebuilding.
I'm in a rebuild here. All right, I got plenty of draft picks.
Okay, all right. I mean, you got 4.
I'm gonna take my cornerstone running back to start off.
So typically the reason why you don't really, if you're in a rebuild, you got the 101 in Superflex or regular Dynasty leagues. Typically the reason why you don't want to waste your early draft picks on running backs is because those players typically have shorter lifespans in the NFL. So, if Jonathan Taylor becomes a success, he might be the exception to the rule, I don't know. But if Jonathan Taylor becomes a, super success in the NFL, which he has, he's going to be the RB1 this year, right? He's been in the league for 2 seasons now?
Yep.
By the time he hits his 5th or 6th season, that's when people are going to start getting rid of him, fading him, moving him away, trading him away in Dynasty leagues, and he's going to start fading back. You saw Todd Gurley had a window of 3 years of huge success in the NFL with that workload. Le'Veon Bell had 4 years, 5 years maybe of success. So in Dynasty, when you're talking about a rebuild, it's usually going to typically take you, probably 2 or 3 years to rebuild the team. Sometimes you can do it faster, but typically it's 2 to 3 seasons just to get yourself back to a point where you can get into contention. And if you want to be in that position of having, that running back, that's great. And if you take over a team, you take over an orphan team that you're rebuilding, and you have some good, solid wide receivers that are young and good pieces that you can utilize.
Well, so that's what also I was going to say. I think it depends on your situation too.
So Rick has 2 good wide receivers that he already drafted.
Well,
so he's drafting
maybe not, but I might have a lot of draft picks that I can use in a deep receiver class. Yeah. Maybe I got a lot of or at least a couple young wide receivers because those are probably easier to acquire than young running backs.
Yeah.
So yeah, it also depends if you think you're how far away in the rebuild are you? Right? Do you feel like you're just a couple pieces away from really contending, or are you just starting from complete scratch?
Right. So, variables obviously change, but if you're going straight from rebuild, the position that typically lasts the longest is in a super flex leagues, it's quarterbacks and receivers.
Well, Right.
But in regular leagues, which is what we're in right now, it's wide receivers. So if wide receivers have a longer longevity, which is like 7 to 10 years of being really good. I mean, Devontae Adams has been good for like 6 or 7 years at this point. So it's like, they have a longer lifespan. Running backs are shorter, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to build around those longer. And they also take, with the exception of the last couple of years, for whatever reason, it also takes a little bit longer for some of these receivers to develop into very good players. And so where running backs you can get day one success from if you draft the right guy. So typically what I do is I build with my receivers first, quarterbacks first, tight ends first, and then the last piece of the puzzle that I add is the running back position. I'll throw that in later. I use picks to trade for them. Every year there seems to be a couple running backs that end up being really good from the NFL draft. So, you can take advantage of that. This class is a little bit lighter, so I don't judge Rick's decision to draft a running back early because he's not getting one at 2-1 if he needs one. But yeah, typically I go wide receivers too. For me, say you're in this situation at 1-9, not to ramble on, but you're in this situation at 1-9, you're competing, you have your really good wide receivers. You got Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson lined up.
Yep.
You got superstar core wide receivers. You have to go running back. So the question here is, now you're at 1-9. You want to go running back. You have Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, Isaiah Spiller off the board. That makes it very hard to draft a running back here.
In your situation, I would probably trade the pick for running back.
Yes, I agree. Because there's nothing left.
But if not, I would just take the depth at receiver. So after my pick, though, Garrett Wilson 1-2. I think you're going to see that. Traylon Burks 1-3. I don't think that's crazy. Walker 1-4. That's not crazy either. London 1-5. Isaiah Spiller 1-6. Chris Olave 1-7. Jameson Williams, though, going to 1-8, I feel like is fantastic value. But I think we're both kind of high on Williams. So
yeah,
I feel like if I could get him at the 1-8 in a single,
oh my god, yeah, that would be.
That's
stellar.
pretty solid.
I was hoping that he would follow me, but
no, your board looks gross here. This is like,
oh my god, yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of guys I don't mind James Cook and Rashad White, but just I feel like I'm gonna get in 5. Well, actually no, because it's not snake. I'm confusing myself. It's not a snake draft. It's linear. So I probably won't have any more running backs left by the time I hit 2-9 in the next round. Yeah. So if I don't draft one now that has upside, then I'm probably just gonna end up receiver, tight end, quarterback in this draft. There has been a lot of hype surrounding Johan Dotson lately, to the point where he might enter the first round of the NFL draft. I
said that like a month ago that I could see that happening,
and so now I think it's because didn't he run a ridiculous 40 time?
Is
that true or not?
I don't think that was him. But
I keep saying that, and it's just not true. 4.43, so that's pretty good. 86%.
Yeah.
My big issue with him is his size and speed, so I'm not. I would definitely.
What's that 5'11", 181 though? So it's not like he's super tiny.
Yeah, I mean he's fast, but I tweeted this out. I think this week he kind of reminds me of like Henry Ruggs, a little bit slower.
I disagree with that, but we can. I think he's a much, much better route runner than Henry Ruggs.
That very may well could be. But I think he's way too small for the NFL.
In terms of like his weight and size, I'll give you that. And I had typically, me and the shifty guys, I feel like he's one of those types of players. He's not on the same level as like an Elijah Mitchell. Not Elijah Mitchell, Elijah Moore. Sorry. He's not on the same level as like an Elijah Moore, but he reminds me a little bit of him.
Yeah. I'm still not going to take him. I'm going to take this.
That's fair. I'll take him all day.
6'3", 200-pound wide receiver named George Pickens.
Yeah. That's. That seems fair.
Yeah. So I'll start with the wide receiver in my attempt to build some depth for my team. After my pick, we had James Cook, Johan Dotson, Rashad White, and then Rick.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would consider Skye Moore here. I think we've talked about it that I drafted Skye Moore in our last mock draft, but I'm not,
You're not going to do it twice, are you?
I'm not super excited about him like some people are in the community who are really high on Skye Moore.
There's guys that Rick drafts sometimes that he continually drafts by accident over and over and over again, and it makes it seem like he's like a truther, but he's not.
Yeah, it's just the value. But I think taking him here isn't awful.
Yeah.
I actually think it's a decent spot, but there is one guy that I do have ahead of Skye Moore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's purely based on upside. I think his draft capital is going to be there as well, and that's Christian Watson. He's super raw. Could be a bust. I will admit that, but he's got a lot of good traits as well. I mean, his combine numbers are ridiculous. His advanced analytics are ridiculous, and if he gets drafted pretty high, I've seen him in mock drafts go as high as late first to like Green Bay or something. That could be pretty good value there. Could be a home run pick.
His mixture of size, speed, and athleticism is really good. His biggest issue, I think, is the fact that he went to NDSU.
That is his route running too is kind of
I agree with that.
Underdeveloped.
But he's one of those players that there's always a guy that goes to the combine and then just lights up the sheet. For workout metrics and size and measurables and everything, and that's what this guy did. He just lit it up, and people he could go from anywhere he could go from a 4th round pick, 5th round pick to 1st round as easily.
I mean,
it's
his
got
measurables,
so much variance.
And this is 6'4", 208, and he ran a 4.36. His speed score was in the 98th percentile. First score, 94th percentile. Catch radius, 96th percentile. And even his agility score, his lowest one, was still not awful, 61st percentile. So
yeah. That's a good pick. I was hoping that he would fall to me, but whatever. After Rick's pick, we had Trey McBride 2-2, Kerwin Williams 2-3, David Bell 2-4, Malik Willis 2-5, first quarterback. Skye Moore 2-6, Brian Robinson 2-7, and then I think his name is Zadir. I want to pronounce it right.
Zadir White.
Zamir
White. Zamir White. There's no deer.
Zamir Wife. I mean, you screwed me up, dude.
I will say Skye Moore 2-6 again.
That's great value.
Pick, but it's great. It is great.
I don't
value.
like Skye Moore, but my
Walmart
goodness,
slogan.
I'll take some late value. Trey McBride goes really early here. 2-2.
He does. That's
the tight end hype from last year. I think is carrying over.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. Because I do all of my real life my real life drafts after the NFL draft, and there's I think 4 dynasty leagues that we're in together, Rick. So we'll see where Trey McBride ends up going in a real draft.
I think in a 1 quarterback league, I would see him 2-3, 2-4.
Yeah.
2-2. He'll be in that range, especially the 10-team one that we're in.
Yeah.
He might even be 2-1, 2-2, something like that.
Yeah.
But I think in superflex leagues, he's probably not till 2-6.
The funny thing is pre-draft when you're doing all these rookie drafts, or the mock drafts, and you see these tight ends go high, Trey McBride could just fall off the board altogether, and he could be the 4th tight end taken in the 6th round and just be completely worthless.
That's true.
So, anyway, so at my pick, there, like I said, nothing left at running back. There is my running back 5 on my draft rankings, who I think I'm going to take, and it's Damien Pierce. So he has typically been going off as the 5th or 6th running back, so right around where Kerwin Williams goes. But in this particular mock draft, he ended up falling to running back 7 or 8, where I took him. So I'm okay with that. I'll take him there and hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean, that's a solid pick. He's a rare running back at this point in the draft that actually could have a role in the NFL. So especially if you felt like you needed a running back, it's at least a good shot to take there.
Yeah.
And then we had some more quarterbacks: Kenny Pickett, Matt Carroll,
Wandale Robertson.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. He reminds me of Anthony Schwartz.
He's coming up too.
So then I have Justin Ross on the board. He's someone who, I think this is a good area to take him, as well as John Mechie. Yeah. I think I would probably take Mechie over Ross, because I think
Ross is a Clemson receiver, right?
Yeah, Ross has a little maybe more upside, but he also has a good chance to
his floor could just drop out.
Yeah, well, I feel like Mechie's going to have a role in an NFL offense at least. I'm really tempted to go quarterback here, though. I feel like Howell or Ritter, depending on how the draft goes, and chances are it's going to be Ritter, could have really good draft capital and landing in a good spot. We've seen rumors about the draft. That happens all the time, but Ritter could be a first-round pick. And I think if that happens, he's not bad here. I think I will go Mechie, though. I was a leaning quarterback, but I think Mechie's just, like I said, he's going to have a role in the NFL offense. I think he'd be a good slot guy. So getting that in the 3-1, I think it's just solid.
All right, so after your pick of John Mechie, the guy that you were thinking about taking is on the board, and I think I'm going to take him too, but just sheer value. My goodness.
Yeah.
So we had, I believe it's Tyler Aljazeer. Aljazeer. How to say your name? I don't know. But then Sam Howell, Weiderman, Woods, 2 tight ends, Ritter, and then Otten and Likely, who are also 2 tight ends.
Woods has so much upside, but he could also suck.
He could just collapse. Rick's pick of Ritter here at 3-6. Not Rick's pick, but he was just talking about Ritter. He falls to 3-6 here.
Also,
is that 5 quarterbacks taken in the top 3 rounds?
Yes.
So typically, I don't think I would see that normally, but like I said, this is not a deep class. The only position that really is deep is the wide receiver position. Running back's not deep. Tight end's not super deep. Quarterback's also not deep. So you're going to see a lot of randomness happen in the 3rd rounds and the 4th round. People are just going to go for guys that they like.
There's also a chance that these guys, Howell, let's say Howell's the last quarterback taken. Yeah. He could still be a 2nd-round pick.
Right.
Like a mid-2nd-round pick in the real NFL draft. So there is some value there. And like you were saying, compared to everybody kind of being down on the running backs and tight ends, that it kind of makes sense.
But I'm going to take Justin Ross. And, to Rick's point, I think he's 6'4", 205 pounds, which is ridiculous. And he does have a higher ceiling. But I think Mechie provides a decent floor, especially like for a team like Rick who's rebuilding. You can ask questions of like, when you're rebuilding, should you be taking big shot picks? Not taking, Justin Ross is going to be a shot pick in the 3rd round. Every 3rd round pick is a shot pick, but if there's a guy that you see like John Mechie who could be give you a little bit of a higher floor if he works out in the NFL. Whereas Justin Ross could easily go from, if he gets drafted by a bad team to complete, irrelevance, or he could get drafted by a good team and become, a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL in 3 years. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of variance there with Justin Ross. But at 3-9, I have to smash draft on that. Easy money.
Right. No, I agree. I think that's ridiculous value, honestly.
And then we have, after my pick, 310, Jalen Tolbert. We have Pierre Strong, and then Greg Dulcich. And then Rick's pick at 4-1. 4th round, here we go.
Normally,
bunch of guys I don't know.
And I'm going to say this. Alex Pierce, I'm taking this guy 9 out of 10 times. Alex. I guess it's Alec. I'm taking this guy 9 out of 10 times. I've taken him in the other mock drafts that we've done.
Yep.
But I'm going to take this guy to bring awareness to his name, who in the deep, dark Dynasty fantasy circles, people know who this guy is, but majority of people do not. And I'm going to say his last name wrong. so I apologize, but it's Khalil Shakir.
Could go either way.
I have to listen to. Yeah, he has been kind of flying up real NFL boards where there's rumors about him going in the second round now. And if you're getting a second round receiver there, the 4-1, it's great. And he's somebody who, again, I think is going to have a real role in the NFL offense. Mm-hmm. He was fantastic in college with horrible quarterback play.
Yeah.
1,100 yards, 77 catches, 7 touchdowns. His true catch rate was actually ridiculous. His college denominator was ridiculous. He's a fast player. He profiles well.
We got a defensive back that was taken in this mock draft.
Yeah, what the hell is going on?
Told you, 4th round shot picks.
Yeah, that's one.
Let's try that again, Sleeper. Oh, another defensive back. I'm just going to keep removing him until something happens. Go ahead and talk about your guys.
I don't know if it's going to change, but yeah, he ran, I think a 4, I can pull it up real quick, 4.43. And yeah, he profiles as that guy. If you're looking at some of the best receivers, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, they're about like that 6 foot, 6'1", around 200 pounds. And that's what he is. He's 6 foot, 196. So he weighs out pretty well. His player comp is Golden Tate. I think that's a pretty good comparison. Everybody says he's like high character. He's a coach's Daniel. I believe it was Daniel Jeremiah or someone at NFL Network said that he's a quote coach's dream. So he does anything that they want. He's more of a football player. And this is reading off the NFL.com scouting report.
Yeah.
He's more of a pure football player than a prototypical slot receiver.
Yeah.
So he kind of can do anything. He's a really tough player. His weaknesses are like kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Where inconsistent working back to the throw. So that you can learn pretty easily. Very short arms and lacks explosiveness as a leaper. That just means he's not going to be a jump ball player, which you can have success without being a jump ball player. So
right.
And as a 4th round flyer, I'm going to take that all day.
Yeah. After Rick's pick, 4-2, Carson Strong, Jeremy Ruckert came off the board. We had Alec Pierce, and then Tyler Batty, Sincere McCormick. I think this guy's name is Devin Allen, and then Master Teague. Whew. This is deep. This is getting ridiculous here. The
He's
back
like
end.
The backup running back at Ohio State.
Yeah, so hopefully the last 3 picks, because we'll tell you what they are. Hopefully they're not linebackers again.
They probably will be.
This draft, man. So there's a couple of guys that you could go with at my pick. Any running back is going to be a complete and utter flyer. Probably a guy that wouldn't even make your roster. If you have a taxi squad, they'll sit on that taxi squad for a little while. So I think the most valuable player that is left is probably Calvin Austin. And he's 5'9", 162, so he's really, 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 really small. But I think he ran the fastest 40 time in the NFL Combine. I wish it would load. It was a 4.32, 99th percentile. He actually grades out pretty good in all of his workout metrics. Agility score, 96 percentile.
Just his weight.
Score, 95 percentile. Catch radius, 75th percentile. Yeah, it's basically his weight. Player profiler's best comparable based on metrics and measurables is Marquise Hollywood Brown. I don't know if he's going to get drafted high enough to have value. But for me, I definitely think I got to take Calvin Austin here. There's some really special things here with Calvin Austin where I'm just going to be able to take him in a Madden league and
yes, exactly.
just toss it deep the whole time. But anyway, yeah. So I'll take Calvin Austin here. Not that there was anybody else on the board. The last 3 picks were defensive linemen. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I mean that's.
Whatever. You don't need to know the last 3 picks.
Yeah, they're defensive players.
But anyway, yeah. So that's kind of how I would approach a rookie draft from the back end of the draft, especially if you already have kind of a constructed team. typically what I end up doing if I already have a really good team is I try to keep the second, third, and fourth round picks and draft wide receivers just to have a stable of young guys that I can go to and hope that I hit on for the next couple years. And then typically trade that first round pick away for somebody that can make a difference on my team. But it just depends on it's any approach that works. I had a dynasty league where I drafted the first year, and then the second year I just traded all my picks and I traded valuable players that I had left and turned them into a team that won the championship the next year. So really you can take any approach. Rebuilds typically, usually have to happen.
There's not one set approach.
Right. But I ended up with George Pickens 1-9, Damien Pierce 2-9, Justin Ross 3-9, and Calvin Austin 4-9. Who do you got, Ricardo?
That's pretty good at your spot. I had Breece Hall 101, Christian Watson 2-1, John Mechie 3-1, and then Khalil Shakir at 4-1.
So there you go. Rookie mock draft 2.0. I think we'll do one next week for a 3.0 right before the NFL draft, and then we get to see the fun things. New kids getting jobs in the NFL. We'll see you later, guys.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.